Ladies and gentlemen, greetings and salutations to you all. As always, I hope you're well. I am Kluger and I am here and I bring unto you an actual Grim Dawn video. This is basically like a build, work in progress / theorycraft build. A disclaimer just before we get any further, this is heavily a work in progress. I'm kind of doing this to bring it to you, the viewers, to discuss and see if this build is even viable in the long term as far as ultimate difficulty goes. Maybe you have tried something similar yourself and or know some of the mechanics that I'm exploring better than I have been able to discover thus far. So hence, I'm doing this video so we can have an open forum, open discussion, and see what we can make of it. So I have entitled this build the Butcher of Burrwitch. Burrwitch, I don't know how to say it properly. But I've entitled it as such because of this weapon, the Butcher of Burrwitch. I have two of them, and the skill, the granted skill on Devour, intrigued me so very greatly that I had to try and see if I could design a build around it. So I've resurrected my old water because I wasn't using it for anything, and I thought the skills offered by the water would most aptly fit this build. So here we go, this is what we're doing. So, the Butcher of Burrwitch. We'll go through what it offers, so the rest of the build therefore kind of makes more sense, hopefully, in terms of skill selection. So, the whole framework of this build based on this weapon is attack damage converted to health. As a side note, it reminds me heavily of an old Spellbreaker that I used to do with a Titan Quest skills back in the day, which was dual wielding attack damage converted to health. In an attempt to, sorry, I'm still a little sick, in an attempt to constantly keep the character alive just by absorbing health from enemies, of course. Now, when you think attack damage converted to health, or like lifesteal, and more broadly in Grim Dawn, you probably would think of Occultist first more than anything else, and as did I. However, this item, this weapon, focuses much more heavily around bleeding damage rather than chaos or vitality damage, which of course comes inherently with the Occultist class. So that made me sort of get lateral with the idea of how this might work. So we can enhance the bleeding damage and work with that, but also work with the attack damage converted to health, and hence I stumbled upon water as the most likely choice. As you can see here, it offers flat bleeding damage, a percentage to all damage, a percentage to bleeding damage, and an increased duration, extra damage to humans, which is, take it or leave it, but plus 50 or so offensive ability, plus 2 to Primal Bond, and plus 2 to Blood Pact, and of course roughly double that up with 2 of them. So you can see where I'm coming from, hopefully, with this whole idea of the water. Now, I have a Haunted Steel slotted in there for the... Again, it gives vitality damage, which is not so good, but the attack damage converted to health is really awesome. And hopefully, if I understand weapon damage correctly, that 8% of attack damage converted to health should roll into Savagery. I could have that wrong. This is one of the things I want to talk to you guys about. I've got a Blessed Whetstone on the other one, which is for bleeding damage and offensive ability, but I would possibly roll 2 Haunted Steels if they weren't so dang expensive to craft. The rest of the gear, not so relevant. It is all based around mostly just defensiveness and keeping resistances decent. Attack speed from these awful Zealot Squallers, which I need to replace. I've got a Fiend Scale jacket because that's also got bleeding damage on it and those sorts of things. Has Life Leech on it as well. From the Contagion skill, which is kind of cool as well. Hopefully it makes sense as to where I'm coming from. Hopefully you guys, if you can let me know what you think of the attack damage converted to health thing, maybe we could observe it and see if it actually works. Just a random attack. If I just take a hit from somebody, someone hit me, please. So that critted, and that's why we healed. See, crits deal good heals. Okay, minor hits also seem to be healing us as well. So I think that 8% is getting rolled in. The crit definitely heals. Yeah. I'm trying to get a non-crit. It's kind of funny because obviously the build, to activate that skill, and we'll go back to it in a sec, to activate that skill, we want to stack a high offensive ability, because the more we can crit, the more we get that skill activating, and the more we heal ourselves. So let's see if we can take a little more significant damage here. Come on, fool. Oh my gosh, I'm killing myself here with the cough. The retaliation damage was just killing that fool. Come on, hit me better. Come on, you dang idiots. Man, you guys are useless. It's one thing I haven't bothered to observe. I just assumed that it worked. The crits heal us so often that it's kind of hard to tell in some ways, but... okay, he's a few guys at once. Come on. Come on, fools. The crits just do it every time, man. Look, my presumption is it works. It's really hard to tell, but yeah, if you guys could weigh in if you have better knowledge as to how that works. I assume that just counts as weapon damage because it's a component on that weapon and therefore should roll into savagery. But yeah, let me know if I'm wrong on that one. But nevertheless, even without that, we'll go back to this skill here. So the skill Devour, 100% chance on critical attack, is aimed at one target, does 25% of main and offhand damage, does 220 flat life leech over 2 seconds, and offers 300% of attack damage converted to health. Now this is another confusing point, and in my research I haven't been able to clarify. Does that 300% of attack damage converted to health pertain to the 25% of the main and offhand damage that is dealt by this skill, or does it pertain to the crit? So when we hit a critical attack, which triggers Devour, does 300% of the total critical then count as the attack damage converted to health, or is it 300% of the 25% of each hand damage that we do? So in that, as you can see in those brackets there, about 200 to 280 damage, which would therefore be like 300 to 900 damage approximately, damage converted to health. If you all have any insights as to how that works in a more explicit manner, do let me know. Based on what I'm like, 300% of attack damage of the entire crit seems a bit OP. It was initially why I got super excited about the idea of this build, because I thought 300% of, like, say you crit for 2k, 300% of that is massive, right? But if we observe, if we get hit a bit and watch those crits, we're getting a small sliver healed back there. So I would dare say that it's 300% of 25% of the main hand and offhand damage that's on offer there. Just watching the health bar go up as we crit, and we're actually getting some decent damage on us now. Yeah, the way it's jumping, I would dare say it's 300% of 25%. But again, do let me know what you think. But in either event, even with that being the case, dual wielding these, I feel makes it pretty dang effective. And I'll show you the skills I'm working with thus far to try and make the bleeding and attack damaging converted to healthing work after I get a reprieve. Sometime. Let's just I'm just going to quickly take this fool out. Oh, I should probably... What am I doing, bro? I'm not even using my allotted skills that I have selected for the build. We good? Okay. Yeah. Alright. We're cool. We got space. So, Soldier, because we're there first. The main idea behind Soldier is just to help with tankiness. It also can help us with critical damage, and there is some bleeding damage throughout the thing, which I'm not leveraging just yet. But being a dual wielder like this, and I've been mucking around with other dual wielding builds, and they rarely work. In a lot of instances, they don't really work anyway. So going with Soldier, it gives us some mobility. It gives us some debuff with Warcry, which I'm planning on cranking more points into. And I'm working with Markovians and Zolhans as well, because they also have a percentage of main hand damage, which is pretty dang cool. And this one offers 100% main and offhand damage, which is really dang cool. And I'm hoping rolls into all the attack damage converted to health as well. And also helps with spreading the bleeding damage, of course, because it takes weapon damage into account, which is on our weapons. I'm using Blitz just to help with the movement speed. We've got plus skills on there as well, and I think it gives us some bleeding damage, if I'm not mistaken. No, it doesn't. I am talking nonsense. Sorry about that. Got some points into Fighting Spirit. I'm actually putting a decent amount of points in there, because once you get it to a good chance to activate, it's pretty dang nice. And the offensive ability on there, again, because we're trying to maximize our offensive ability and crit as often as possible, when that trips it helps us a lot. And like I said before, it kind of makes our offensive ability into a defensive option in a roundabout kind of way. Field command and squad tactics, pretty stock standard. Par for the course with soldier builds usually. Main here's will isn't working because I've changed this build and I've got to take those points out. I was doing a sword and board build initially with this character, which I've now changed, so I need to ditch that. Military conditioning, again, stock standard, and decorated soldier for the elemental and slow resistance. Now we'll go over to shaman. Now, Shaman, I always think lightning, but it actually has good bleeding damage on offer. So, working on the savagery skill, which I'll crank up to maximum. As you can see, next rank, it's going to go over 1k bleeding damage, which is pretty dang nice. Just 1 point in each of those. Now, I'm using Wendigo Totem, currently just at 1 point out of 12, but to get to Blood Pact, which is getting plus skilled up the yin-yang from the 2 Butcher of Burrwitches that we are wielding, which you can see offers extra bleeding and vitality damage. The vitality damage again, meh. But again, 33% chance of 18% of attack damage converted to health, which is pretty dang cool. Yeah, that again helps us very much. It actually heals us, and I possibly will put more points in the base skill. But yeah, boom, nice, tasty, good work. 8 out of 12 on Primal Bond. Again, getting plus skills from Butcher of Burrwitch gives us lots of bleeding damage, and actually helps with our resilience, which I don't mind at all. And also tempts me into getting the Brythorn just as a companion, because you'll get a nice buff from that. So, and then 1 point in each of the Mogdrogon's Pact line, just for the extra survivability yet again. Devotion-wise, I'm still up in the air, but I'm mostly working towards Unknown Soldier, because it gives us lots of offensive ability, lots of bleeding damage throughout the tree, and it actually has an attack damage converted to health node, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that one. So that's kind of cool. At the moment, I'm working on... For some reason, I'm working on Lion. I might actually... Wait, no, I need Lion. So I'm going to finish that off. Got Dryad's Blessing on Warcry, so we always get healed from that every time we cast it. I've got Assassin's Blade, which is kind of more pierce damagey. I was trying to work towards Unknown Soldier, or still am, and it does give us bleeding damage throughout the way, but it's not super pertinent. And again, with Falcon, it's not super helpful as well, but it does give us purple and give us a bunch of bleeding damage, which is kind of nice. And then Empty Throne, which is giving us resistances, which I often use. And of course gives us purple to get us to Unknown Soldier. So I'm doing the best I can in this, within these parameters to get to Unknown Soldier, but maybe I'm way off base with that approach. I mean, I could even get Scales of All Karma once I have enough yellow as well. Which could be interesting, because then the Tip the Scales skill, 20% chance when hit, is attack damage converted to health. I should actually really do that. It's only just occurred to me right now, so once I get that, I can then get that. I don't know if I'll finish the constellation, but I might. It's a pretty decent constellation, so interesting, awesome. And that gives us 2. What does this give us? 3. So I could possibly ditch that, because that's going to get us to 9. Okay, I'll work on that later, but that's where I'm going. That's what I'm angling towards. And now you've seen this in action a bit so far, but the basic premise is you just pick a place to fight, you get your Wendigo totems down, you just keep spamming those because they are super helpful. And then you just whack things, and you hope you crit as much as possible. Boom, very good. Now, just watching the health bar, and you guys, again, you've seen a little bit of this already, but intuitively, it feels like the health bar doesn't go down much unless we're getting really overawed by a stack of enemies. We tend to be pretty stable. Like, health-wise, we don't really drop too much. As long as our offensive ability is at a decent place. Look, see, we come out of there with basically our health completely intact. As a dual wielder, which I think is pretty dang solid. So we go boom, we hit him with the Warcry, which gets our Dryad's Blessing going, and then we just crit dudes as much as possible, and we end up pretty dang nice. So it's a pretty simple play style, pardon me. And you just hope that you crit, really, and you stack the odds in your favor by getting as much offensive ability as you possibly can, and then you're just laughing from there. So we'll go work on this boss together, because the bosses are a potential Achilles heel, because They do have decent resistance to Life Leech and Life Leech skills. And also because they'll have higher DA and higher resistances means we probably won't crit them as often. Which could lead to less healing, and therefore the whole premise of the build is out the window, because if we can't crit, we can't heal, and then the build can become exposed. So that is a potential weakness of the build, so possibly just stacking crazy offensive ability is the way to contravene that. I think that's the right word that I'm looking for. to supersede that problem altogether. You know what I'm trying to say. And even slightly forego, not entirely forego defensive ability, but because offensive ability is so helpful for us in this case, maybe we can focus more on that. So, you see what I'm getting at, hopefully. I've got to go back to normal difficulty and get a couple of other shrines as well. I thought I'd just do this through Elite, so we could see everything in action. But yeah, look, I think I'm going to end it there, ladies and gents. It's actually quite a long video, all things considered. It was meant to be like a brief theory craft, so because it's not set in stone, I feel like I've actually been relatively brief. I haven't gone into too much detail. This is not intended as a build guide, so it's intended as a discussion. So let me know what you think. I think the build has quite possibly got legs. If we can keep that bleeding damage going up through the roof and get some crazy offensive ability stats going, and like we've got really quite subpar gear here, because this is an old resurrected build, it's not really 100% flash in terms of the gear, besides that which I've given it to try and actually get the build premise underway. But we can make a lot of changes here to get the offensive ability cranking, get our survivability and DPS at a decent state. Because as well, the DPS and the attack speed and the ability to crit all rolls into our healing, which I think is a really fun, unique approach to the build. Anyway, ladies and gents, I'm going to end this video because I'm running out of steam, because I'm still not 100% able to talk. I will leave it here. Yeah, let me know down below. Leave some comments and get some discussion going about whether you think this build is ultimate viable. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you think. So I'm going to go. Remember to, do that stuff. Like and subscribe as well. And I hope to talk to you again very, very soon. My name is Kluger, and you have a great day.